Right, good morning, Instagram world. And this is Juan Evans. I'm really excited to be hooking up a chat with Clarky today. And hello, Porks, nice of you to join us. Just to really, in these times of lockdown, obviously gives us all a chance to kind of reflect and think about where we are in our lives and the things we've done and the friendships we've made. And so, I reached out to a few of the guys that I played with, and also been, hello Jabba, nice to see you. Nice to connect with guys, all around the world. So I see Clarky's just joined, so I'm just going to try and invite him, and then we'll chat. All right, obviously still figuring out the new age technology here, but should be able to invite Clarky to or request to join Clarky so that you can join us. If this doesn't work, then I will have to do a little bit of research and then come back to you and figure it out. Hello Rosa. Hello Sevens. Nice to see everyone tuning in. And I hope everybody's well during this time, and we're kind of forced to be stuck at home. I think, hello Blocks, nice to see you Blocks, and Dill. Hello Smitty B, nice to have so many hockey friends joining us. And I thought this little Instagram exercise would be a good way for us just to document all the stories that we've had. A lot of us have been on tour together. We've had a lot of fun. We've traveled to some amazing places. We've been so lucky and so privileged. And those stories and those friendships will last our whole lives. And I think anyone who's ever played hockey knows that. So what we're hoping to do is to just have these discussions, and have these chats. And that's why I invited Clarky to come on first, just because he's an absolute legend. I'm going to try and get him to request to join the live chat now. Winter, if you can help me with that one. This top is still going, Dill. Can you believe it, eh? Thought I'd break it out on a special occasion, feeling patriotic, thinking about all the people out there fighting hard for our country. There's Clarky. Hello, Marvy. Hello, Matters. Nice to see you, folks.
Juan, how are you, bud?
I'm so good. And you?
Yeah, I'm lucky. Thank you.
Good. Well, thank you so much for making this happen.
Yeah, no, thank you. What a great initiative. Whoops, sorry. What a great initiative. And lucky to be on board. Probably the busiest I've been all lockdown, eh? As things happen, and my daughter wanted to get onto the Harry Potter World website and log in and get new credentials. So, timing was great.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Clarky. And just so nice to see so many people from around the world tuning in. And such an interesting time we found ourselves in. I've taken, I think I told you yesterday, I took some great inspiration from Hugh Page and what he's been doing with the old cricket guys. And I thought, what a cool opportunity to catch up with old mates and reminisce a little bit while we've got the time on our hands.
Awesome. Yeah, great initiative, Juan. Loving it. And when you suggested it, jumped at it. It's a great time to do it as well, whilst you've got a captive audience as well. So it's glad you chose me to be the first one.
Awesome. So Clarky, I think we're going to chat for maybe an hour, maybe not that long. There's not too much structure to it, but I've got a load of things that I've always wanted to ask you. And I think just by way of introduction, obviously I looked up to you when I was a young player. I was at school. You went to the Sydney World Cup, and then you went to Atlanta after that. And I remember I had a poster of you stuck in my locker, you and Bodders actually on my locker. And I was like, one day I want to be I want to be like Otters. I want to be like Gregg Clark. And you know, I always my first experience, my first senior men's IPT. I was still at school, but we played in Pretoria, and you guys had just come back from Atlanta. And I remember watching you play, and you had this like little dribble where you push it at the defender's right foot, tuck it straight back, and go past them on their weak stick side. And you did it so quickly, and I'd never seen it before in my life. And I just remember thinking, like, how's this Oak's hands, and how much gas he's got to eliminate the players. And you know, it was at that point, like looking at that and thinking, like, geez, these guys who have been to the Olympic Games and have come back now, like, we're not even playing the same sport as you guys. And so that was one of my first memories of watching you, Clarky. And then I always, you know, obviously remember you being very, very fit. You took a huge amount of pride in your physical training, and you always you led from the front at training, and obviously in matches. You're part of that leadership group that we had in that time. And also, I just always remember, Clarky, I was lucky enough to play at left half, and you played left midfield right in front of me. And I had Jacko just on my inside, so I had some really good quality players around me. But I always remember you communicated really, really well. And the one little anecdote that just illustrates that for me was I remember playing against Germany in that series in Poch, and I'd received the ball about 3 or 4 times from Jacko, and like I had a pre-scan, I saw you were on, but I just wasn't confident enough to give it to you. And obviously, it was one of my first few test matches. And, you know, chickened out, I passed it back to Jacko, and you just kind of trotted towards me, and you're like, hey, Juan, the next one you get, hit it as hard as you can down the line, and I'm not going to miss it. Like, I'm going to pick it up, and I'm going to burn the soak. And that's exactly what you did. And I remember we got a circle entry, and I think a short corner from that. And I'll never, ever forget that. It was one of the things that, like, crystallized in my mind as a young player, the role that communication plays. And I think from then on, I hit you 1,000 balls down that line, and I watched you burn 1,000 other defenders and get circle entries there for South Africa, almost every test that we ever played. So that communication for me was always like a massive part of what you brought to our team and to the youngsters and that kind of thing. So yeah, those are like my earliest memories, Clarky, and yeah, just such a privilege to play with you, man.
Yeah, thanks, Juan. It was it was a pleasure playing in front of you at left mid, because I knew that I could dribble up my bum as much as I liked, and then had this big bloke who could flip and tackle the hell out of anything behind me, and yeah, you did a lot of that. You were a machine defender at left half, and I think that's why Revs ultimately put you there, because you were so composed under pressure when teams did try and press our left halves. But it was it was awesome having someone like you behind to do the dirty work after sort of I was there to try and express myself in those types of teams, sort of back end of my career. Yeah, so that was awesome. It was also fantastic having guys like yourself who would take that sort of communication on board and run with it and that type of thing. Yeah, so listen, thanks for the intro. It was great to hear that type of stuff, and similar types of things, how watching other players in my younger days also sort of inspired me. Sort of I was growing up in Joburg at school, and when Johannesburg first got their Astro, I think they had one of the old Saints series where SAA used to play SAB after they were selected at that year's IPTs and that sort of thing. And watching the likes of, even centralized club fixtures at Old Johnny's and Wanderers and those types of things in those days, just going out and seeing what those guys could do and how they went about the business. Yeah, those were also inspiring times for me. Guys like Vaughan Brad, I used to really enjoy watching him play, Paul Logues. So yeah, it was, though that's kind of where also for myself, the formative years were watching the top guys do what they do, see what worked for them, and then try and implement it as a school player. I guess I did a bit of after we chatted actually this morning, I did a bit of research. I've done it a number of times before to try and sort of chronicle, see how much I can remember from my career now that I'm getting very long in the tooth. Starting way back when, got my school progression and all the way through to under 21s and that type of thing. I was very lucky with my career in that I was in the right place at the right time. We were in isolation, when I was doing my sort of internship, I guess you'd call it, sort of under 21s, and learning in the Natal environment where I'd gone to study down in Durbs. And I'd sort of my first year down there, I was in the minors team. Then I made the A side in '92, made an SA squad, which they selected from that RPT. And then there was that squad sort of in January of '93, as we had just sort of sent a team of athletes, not hockey, to the '92 Barcelona Olympics. And we were just starting to emerge back out of those isolation years. So I think I turned 22 the day after they selected that first SA team, which I was part of. And so, yeah, very lucky that I was in the right place at the right time and sort of just hitting my straps as a very young, naive hockey player. Our domestic, our RPTs are very competitive, and all our sort of domestic sport, we were lucky that we did have competitive internal sport, but we were way off the pace when we did get into international hockey, although we caught up pretty quickly. So yeah, it was a great thing to be part of. It was a great time to be my age, and sort of getting exposed to all these unbelievable opportunities were just suddenly thrown at you. Like you say, the '94 World Cup in Sydney, closely followed by the Atlanta Olympics, where hockey was included as a sport, and we sent, I think, a full team South Africa to the Olympics for the first time in a long time. So yeah, those types of things were amazing. It was great to be part of at the time.
And Clarky, I mean, you played 250 times for South Africa, which is amazing. But the stat that's more amazing for me is that you scored 42 goals. Now, I remember you shooting a goal at practice, and you were pretty damn woeful. Like, I'd back you any day for a circle entry and a shorty, but geez, up until you scored that goal against Belgium, I didn't know that you had scored so many goals.
Yeah, listen, I don't know how accurate that stat is. In my early part of my career, I was a forward. That's kind of where I played right half for SA schools and back in the day. And I went down to study in Durbs after I did a year of compulsory military service, and we had a pretty strong technical Natal side at that stage. It was an open club, and the likes of Gary Pio and Greg Pilling and Andrew Brown and Mark Bowman there. Yeah, so Blocks was there and Twashi. Yeah, so it was a strong team, and I couldn't make the team in my preferred position. There was no space in midfield. There was literally, back in the day, left wing used to be where they put all the Muppets who weren't so great. It's actually a very specialized position. You've got to have some pretty good backhand skills and that type of thing. And I learned that, so I had to go and learn a different skill set. But that's kind of where the space was, and I sort of made a little niche for myself there. And I was reasonably quick, and I had, like you said, I had a few hands. Probably liked to dribble a little bit too much back in those days. And then, so that's where I got selected for Natal and played the early part of my international career up front until, I could sort of, I'd done a bit of an apprenticeship, and I'd learned a bit more about the game, and I was a bit smarter about what I did. I could slowly start playing in the midfield a bit more.
And Clarky, so in the early days when you were playing at Natal Tech, and then you went on your first few tours, I was trying to go through the coaching, all the coaches that you've played under, and this is my list. So tell me where the gaps are here.
Yeah.
And I want to just talk a little bit about coaching. Obviously, your role now as a coach, just a little bit of those different leadership styles, because we all have our own opinions. When we're not in the national team, and you also have a different opinion when you're in the national team. So I started with Alan Payton. Was he the first coach that you had?
Yeah, so Pates was the first national coach of South Africa post-isolation, yeah.
So my list is Pates, then Gavin Featherstone, then Giles, then Robbie, and then Paul Revington. 5 coaches.
I think that's right. Yeah, there was one tour back in '95 when so we'd been to the Olympics, and then Gavin Featherstone wasn't available. I don't know, he might have been sort of doing a coaching stint. I think he was club coaching at the same time as he was national coach of South Africa at Oxford. And Tony Godding took that team to, I think it was the Indira Gandhi Cup in India, early 95. Dave Carr was the manager. So he was more like a sort of interim or a stand-in coach for that tour. But yeah, pretty much those are the five. Yeah.
I see Jabba's confirming that in the comments. Thanks, Ranko.
Thanks, Jabba.
Yeah, and so what was it like going to the Olympics with Gavin Featherston? Obviously, he had a reputation for being, and I see Brian Myberg has also joined us. How's it, Mites? Yeah, I mean that must have been interesting.
Yeah, listen, Featherston was a really interesting character. Actually, somewhere here, I'll go and pull out. He was at the 2017, I think it was, when we hosted a tournament up in Johannesburg recently, an FIH World Series or whatever it was. He was there, he came out of the woodwork, and he was handing out copies of his book. A couple of interesting chapters in that book, which are about his time in South Africa, or coaching the South African team. He rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. He was quite a difficult guy to play for. But ultimately, his very abrasive coaching style was all about seeing who had the character who had the resilience to sort of overcome the pressures of international sport, I guess. Obviously, there's so many different styles of coaching, and coaching's changed a lot. Like, just the real rugby mentality of the days of old, where it was just my way or the highway. And I think you've got to have a little bit more EQ these days as a coach, and that type of thing. Not sure Feathers had that much of that. He did understand characters very well, and he knew who the tough guys were and who the not so tough guys were. But he used to push your buttons, and it wasn't always the best way to get the most out of players, like sort of really, even guys who ended up selecting, he would really put you down in team meetings, in whatever. I mean, Jabba will tell you a few stories as well. I mean, as a young 19-year-old, Jabba came on tour with us to a Four Nations in Germany, and we were doing a video, one of the very early video sessions where you had to sort of pause and rewind and all that type of stuff on the old Betamax video machine or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I remember him, and Jabba's just, first couple of games of international hockey playing against some pretty serious opposition. And Jabba had made an error or something like that, which is quite understandable, given that it's your first couple of games. And he said, "Justin, what are you doing?" And Jabba was like, you've got a room full of people, a lot older than him, been around the block, blah, blah, blah. And Jabba was like, trying to sort of explain himself to Gavin. And he said, "Oh, Gav, I thought," he said, "Yeah, but don't think, when you think you're like a stuffed fucking animal." That's, I think, something along those lines. And Jabba will bear me out on that. And it's just, that's not how to build a guy up who's 18 years old, 19 years old, sort of dreaming of playing international hockey, first tour, that type of thing. So, those types of things, I think, left a lot of scars, on a lot of mental scars on a lot of players. And so whether it was during Gavin's reign or when he went, whether they excelled or not, that type of thing. I mean, Jabba went on to play a lot of hockey, and fortunately he was a bit more resilient than that. And he learned a couple of comebacks, which some of them spring to mind. Jabba will remember the Luann Rivet comeback when she told him he was a bit fat. So those types of things, Gav didn't really know how to build players up and get the best out of them. He certainly knew how to test them, but I think he needed a different side to his coaching as well.
And then straight after that, obviously Giles took over the reins, and I never played under Giles, but I remember going to, or just listening to the guys in the pump house talking about the things that he was trying to do, and I was unfortunately on the end of a few of those tech games where he was coaching tech against us, and we were at Durban Varsity, and we didn't know what the hell was going on, because Giles was so astute, and he was so dynamic with his tactics, that it was like you were entering the fray, and we'd never seen anything like it. So, and what was that like, Clarky? How did that develop you as a player?
Yeah, so I mean, I was fortunate because I'd already experienced Giles as a Natal captain, Back in the day, Tech used to play Pine Town for the league. We used to compete against them. So I competed against Giles a lot in the league, and then sort of played with him for Natal. He was the skipper of those teams, those early teams. A great man manager, very motivational guy. Always knew how to get the best out of all his players and everyone in the team. And then, when he became the coach of South Africa, really a breath of fresh air, completely different to what we had been experiencing under Featherstone. Giles is about sort of building people up and sort of making you feel like you can run through a brick wall and all those types of things. And so that was a really big breath of fresh air. We also had, after 96 Olympics, a lot of the older blokes retired. The likes of Wayne Grahams and I think Archie might have retired after that. And just a couple of the older generations. And Giles sort of brought in a lot of young blood. And also when you've got a group of young guys that are getting their first taste and their first opportunity, and he's pumping up and that type of thing. So it was quite exciting times, and he did want us to play quite an exciting brand of hockey as well. It was incredible to be part of that setup, and we had some really exciting tours, and he put together great programs and quite interesting tours and places we went to. We went on a tour to Russia, I remember in 97. Wasn't the best conditions. In fact, one of the tougher tours I've been on in terms of having to eat watery beetroot for breakfast and lunch and supper and those types of things. But it was a very interesting tour and that type of thing. So also Jalsy, being a young group, we also then sort of shot ourselves in the foot in a couple of tournaments. We just butchered 97 World Cup qualifier, where we were ahead in a number of games, in most of the games, and then conceded a lot of late goals and that type of thing. So I was actually thinking about it earlier. Giles has been such a decorated coach and such a storied career and that type of thing, but he's had a lot of near misses throughout his career. He just had another one now with the Canadian woman where they missed out on it so narrowly on Olympic qualification. But I was thinking about it. Obviously there's the whole story of Giles was the coach in 2000 when we didn't go to the Olympics. That World Cup qualifying campaign, we just missed out there. He was the coach of Belgium when we scored that late goal to sort of clinch that late spot for. So I was actually thinking about shame. Giles had a lot of hard luck stories as well in his career, but he's been around the block and he's got some serious accolades as well.
And Clarky, when I think about that era, I think it was also the time of that Epson sponsorship, and we were playing NHL. I was a little bit too young. I was still just at school. But I remember Sevens and Twash and you and Brooks and Gregor and all the Oaks going off, playing for the Raiders. Was when the kind of Raiders brand was established. And it felt like when Giles was involved, I think he was coaching Natal with the Raiders at that point, that there was a little bit more money in the game. Like this was the tipping point where kind of rugby was going professional. We'd had a national league. We had a dynamic tactician on board and fairly well connected to business and those kind of things. It felt like that was almost the golden era, and I know that carried through. I remember when we qualified for Sydney and then found out we couldn't go, which is obviously hugely disappointing. But that group of players then held on for another 4 years to go to Athens. And luckily, that was the group where myself, Simo, Ravers joined as the youngsters of that, the tail end of that group. But that was such an amazing squad because it almost had like 8 years of preparation and experience, thanks to what Giles had done at like a provincial level and with that Epson sponsorship. Am I kind of on the right track there, or do you see?
Listen, we were very lucky. There were a lot of us that played a lot of hockey together in that group, both for Natal and for South Africa. So I think we formed the core of that. The likes of Nicol and Clark and King and Cullen. Obviously, there were a lot of other very influential people in the national setup with the likes of Jacko and Marbs and Spada and Bonesy and all those types of guys. But because so many of us were playing our hockey for Natal and for South Africa. That influence of that era, the Raiders, getting that brand off the ground. Wayne Phillips worked very closely with Giles in that whole setup. He was the sort of marketing guy, going out getting sponsorships for us and getting people on board and just understanding how to leverage it and just trying to make the sport more commercial, more viable, that type of thing. Yeah, it was great to be part of that setup. Fortunately, I think we backed it up a lot on the park as well for Natal. It was just unfortunate that we couldn't quite replicate that success. And when I was looking at it, like you said, that sort of 8-year period culminating maybe in Athens, we kind of just missed the boat on that. We were close, but maybe, the little hiccup of not going to the World Cup in 98 and having that sort of big tournament experience for a number of us, and then not going to the 2000 Olympics and not having that big tournament experience. We went to the 2002 World Cup, but it was a disaster. We came 13 out of 16 in that thing. It wasn't a good campaign. It's a very difficult format where you have a 16-team tournament, because as opposed to a 12-team tournament, because you've got 4 pools of 4. You've only got 2 pool games that you have to get results in, and you've got 3 pool games, but you've basically got to get results in 2 pool games. Otherwise, you're in the bottom half of the rest of the tournament. So I think 2004, where we didn't quite, we had some very competitive games against Aussie and the Dutch and India, but we just couldn't seal the deal, and maybe those that sort of long-term history hurt us a little bit there.
And Clarky, I'm just talking about that Raiders team. I mean, it was a special bunch of oaks that played in that side. I mean, sure. You think about like Gregor in goals, Sevens, Twashi, yourself, Beefy, Blocks, Alan Kelly, Bugsy. There's so many guys. What was it about that Natal era that was just, the quality of the hockey was just magic. Eh?
Yeah, it's weird. I often, you try and put your finger on it. It's really difficult because, like I say, Giles was coaching. I think he coached Tech for a couple of seasons, or for a season at the same sort of time as he was starting out as the national coach. It might have been his second year. After that, he was kind of still the coach, but Twashi and I sort of ran the show. We had enough international experience, and Giles just used to come and sort of run the odd practice or that type of thing. I don't know. Just that whole environment, I guess, in Natal hockey, in the Durban League, it was a lot about expressing yourself and sort of scoring more goals than the opposition, and just really going out. I remember that those early Tech teams that I played in. Gary Pio was the player coach, and we had a lot of talent and ability in that team, and we played what we called cowboy hockey, kind of lots of interchanging in positions. Everybody understood exactly what we were trying to achieve in our structure. It wasn't too complicated. Just try and play at a tempo that other teams couldn't live at. So it was, I guess that just sort of filtered through. That's kind of what the province was about. And I just think we had a lot of people who just loved playing the game that way. I think it's all underpinned by a strong work ethic and to work hard for your mates. And I just remember there was very little bitching and backbiting, and it was just all the guys just loved each other's company and being on tour, playing hockey together. So I think that the camaraderie and the sort of off-field stuff really carried us through onto the field. Everyone had great mates, and we just wanted to do the best for everyone in the teams we're playing in.
Clarky, I want to just talk a little bit about some of the captains that you've played under, and some of the guys who influenced you with their leadership. In my time, it was Craig Jackson, who obviously, Jacko, just the hardest man alive, and just led us from the front. And I remember being terrified on my first test match. In fact, I think the first touch that I got, I passed it straight over the sideline. I was so scared. I was up in Joburg, that's 5-test series against Spain. But I remember Jacko, he said things like, he's like, don't be scared because you've trained your whole career, your whole life, you've trained to be here in this test match. So enjoy it. Don't wish the time away because you're anxious about the results. And, you know, it's stuff that we've heard from coaches. And I suppose as you get older, it kind of sinks in. But when you're 21 or 22 years old, I remember those words from Jacko, and I've used it throughout my career in business and everything. Those times when you feel like anxious and scared and terrified, like that's where you want to be. You know, it's not it's not worth living if you're not in that space. So, any moments like that spring to mind?
I mean, listen, I think Wayne Graham, I only played under sort of a handful of captains for South Africa. Wayne Graham was the captain sort of post-isolation, and up to the Olympics. I think there might have been one or two where he didn't go on. I remember Charlie Pereira deputized for him or stood in for him, and Charlie was a great leader in his own right. I think there was a tour to India we went on, and so there would have been Wayne and Charlie. Not sure if Giles. I think Giles, that same tournament in India that I mentioned, that Tony Godding sort of stood in as the head coach. I think Giles might have captained that side, and then I think after when Giles took over, I think Jacko became the captain, quite a young captain in '97, and then all the way through to when I retired, and I think Jacko retired as well at the end of the 2004 Olympics. Jacko was a skipper, so it was literally just a handful of guys. And listen, it must have been quite difficult for Jacko as a young guy, but he always had so much leadership quality and was very unflappable. Like you say, always great with his communication and bringing out the best in people and seeing the best in people, that type of thing. Very diplomatic and reassuring. And there's so many qualities. So I mean, probably Jacko was my favorite. We played a lot of hockey together, still great mates and that type of thing. But he really grew into the position, became an excellent, unbelievable leader for South Africa. Yeah.
Cool. Amazing memories, Clarky. Thanks. Okay, a little bit of an irreverent question, but always something interesting that I think a lot of people who watch sports are interested in. How important is the number 7 to you? When you think about like CR7 and how brands of sporting personalities are built on their numbers, Michael Jordan's 23, all those kind of things. So you were always 7 as long as I can remember, Clarky. Was that always your number? And what does it mean to you?
Juan, I don't know. Just I think it wasn't really something when I was really young in my career. It wasn't something that I thought of a lot. But as I sort of got just before my career was kicking off, I suppose when I started playing senior hockey, I sort of recognized people wearing numbers on their backs and sort of what types of players they were and that type of thing. So I don't know. I guess that's the first time really. I don't think I wore 7 all the time. In fact, I've actually I've got a shirt here somewhere. I'll try and grab it, which is actually from, I don't think I brought it through with me, from the 93 Intercontinental Cup, and it actually got the number 9 on the back. So I think I started up my first couple of games. I wanted to play in 7. I think I started playing in 7 as soon as I could. I think Tony Holman might have been number 7 for Natal. Couldn't get my hands on that jersey for a while. And then, with South Africa, same thing. There were a couple of older guys who had numbers. But as soon as I could get my hands on the number 7 for Natal and for South Africa, I did. And I think it might have been sort of post Atlanta that I started to wear it, for the rest of my career. And it was just, I think Jeeps, Gary Pierre might have had the number 7 for Tech, and he was a guy I looked up to a hell of a lot, with a massive influence on my career as a young guy, sort of in Durban, having moved from Joburg, in a very having to grow up a hell of a lot in that environment, in the tech environment, and Jeeps was, you mentioned sort of my fitness regime and being a fit player and that type of thing. And there was one thing that Jeeps instilled in me and us as players of theirs is, to be really, really fit, to be able to use the talents that you have to the best of your abilities and that type of thing. So I think that's might have been where the sort of that influence came, and then try to sort of live up to those, I guess, a lot of those qualities.
Okay, awesome. All right, Clarky, we're halfway through. It's past. So now it's time to play Up Your Game, which is a little quiz. So I'm going to put on my quiz master's glasses over here.
Fantastic.
Okay, I've got the stopwatch over here.
Ooh.
And when we play Up Your Game, Clarky, I'm going to ask you 10 questions. They're for 10,000 points each. And we have to see what you score. So it's very, very serious. The questions are really hard. They've come from a wide range of sources around the world, these questions. So
Are they hockey questions, Juan, or are they general knowledge questions?
They're definitely not all hockey questions, Clarky. So you tell me when you're ready, and then I'll start the clock, and we'll see what your time is, and we'll see how many you can get out of 100,000 points. Okay.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
I'm glad you got headgear on for this, Clarky. All right. Clock has started. Multiple choice question number 1. Your roommate in Athens, Eric Rosinis, used to go for a poo for either A, 30 seconds, or B, 30 minutes.
30 minutes.
That's incorrect, Clarky. I'm afraid Rosie used to snap one off in a record time of half a minute. So that's 0 for you. Sorry. You've got 26 seconds, Clarky. All right. Question number 2. What do these 3 hockey players have in common? Michael Green from Germany, Ian Simons from South Africa, and Andrew Baker from KZN.
They're all doctors.
They are all doctors, Clarky. Congratulations. 10,000 points for you. All right. You're doing amazing, Clarky. Keep going. You've only scored half the points that you potentially could score at this point. All right. This is an easy one. I'm going to ask you, because I know he's watching. Ryan Shrives has front teeth. True or false?
False.
False is correct. Well done, Clarky. 10,000 points for you. Amazing. Well done. All right. Question 4. This is a tough one, Clarky. You're going to have to get the cobwebs out of your mind and just think back and focus. When you first arrived at Nataltech, Brooks took you out to a notorious nightclub in Durban to meet the lads.
Yes.
You had a particularly big night. Do you remember the night in question so far, Clarky?
I don't even think I made the night, but I had a particularly big afternoon, yes.
You consumed too many beers, according to Brooks, and you passed out on the bonnet of his car.
Yes.
For 10,000 points, Clarky, can you name the nightclub?
It was the Sportsman's Pub at the Sportsman's Bar at the LA Hotel.
Correct, Clarky. 10,000 more points for you. You're doing amazing so far. Excellent. Other than not knowing your roommate very well. Okay. This is a hockey question. A serious hockey question. You've had 2 minutes so far, Clarky. You're doing great. Question number 5 is multiple choice. At the Olympics in 1996, Greg Beefy Nickel was tied top goal scorer with 7 goals. Who did he share this honor with? Your options are
Juan Escarre,
Callum Giles, or Taco Fanahornet.
In 96. Ooh.
96 at Atlanta. Beefy scored
I
7
thought it
goals.
was Juan Escarre. Say again?
Goal scorer. Your options are Jorge Lombi from Argentina, Callum Giles from GB,
it'll be
Taco
Taco.
Fanahornet from Holland.
It'll be Taco.
You are absolutely correct, Clarky. That's 10,000.
I thought it was Juan Escarre, to be honest with you, from Spain. But anyway, what do I know?
Didn't he didn't make the top list. I did Google all of this.
Okay.
And Jorge and Callum both got 6 goals each. In that
And Juan also got a big fat hole in his shin from Mash, who smashed him through the shin pad.
I'm sure he did. Okay, Clarky, you're doing amazing. You've got 40,000 points at the moment. Question number 6. This is a very difficult question. What is the official name of the sporting contest conceived by Dave Staniforth, where participants kick a rugby ball along the ground in the hope that their opponents stumble or knock on the ball?
Grabber.
Can we have the official internationally recognized world title, please, Clarky?
Grubber Championship of the World.
Look, Clarky, I'm gonna give you 5,000 points because it's the Mr. Grubber
Mr. Grubber,
World
sorry.
Championship of the World. 5,000 points for you.
Very sexist, but anyway.
That's okay. That's okay, Clarky. This is we're progressive these days, but back then we weren't so progressive. So Mr. Grubber Championship of the World. You're doing great. Question 7. This is a tricky one, Clarky, so don't rush your answer. Think carefully. Grant Smithy Bitch Smith was capped for South Africa in field hockey. True or false? There's a 2-part question.
True.
Are you sure about that answer?
Yes.
You are correct. You have 5,000 points for the first half of the answer. Smithy B was also capped in another sport internationally. Can you tell me what it is? And for whom he was capped?
I think this one might be a little bit more obscure. Was it the South African cricket team when he walked on at Kingsmead?
You close, Clarky. Yes, he was captain international cricket, but it wasn't for South Africa.
Was it garden cricket?
So Russell Arnold went out for Sri Lanka. Smithy hopped over the wall, walked down out of the changing room and out to the middle and took guard. So we're going to count that as 5,000 points for you, Clarky. Nicely done. Okay, you've got 3 more questions to go. Question 8. You've been to 4 Olympic Games, and you are potentially, I didn't know this, but you are potentially in line to possibly go to a 5th, correct?
Correct.
Who is credited with being the founder of the modern Olympics, Clarky?
Baron Pierre de Coubertin.
Correct. 10,000 points for Clarky. Nice.
Boom.
And I remember this because we had this quiz in Madrid at the qualifiers. If you remember that.
Yeah, I do remember that.
That was the question. Okay. Question number 9. On the very same tour to Spain, on board a flight from Joburg to Madrid, Reese Basson mistakenly ate something he took to be complimentary sweets. What did he eat?
He actually asked the air hostess if she had something to make him sleep better, and she presented him with a set of earplugs, which he promptly swallowed with his drink because he thought they were sleeping pills.
Absolutely correct, Clarky. 10,000 points. Reese Basson eating his earplugs on the plane. Okay. Clarky, you are doing amazing. You're setting a very high mark in the Up Your Game quiz. You've got 1 more question. During the Athens Olympics, we had the equivalent of a Dick of the Day shirt. You used to don the special shirt. But you also had to do a special dance, generally in a public place. Can you name the dance and can you describe it for us, Clarky?
Sure.
In fact, if you wouldn't mind, can you name the dance and can you just do the dance for us?
Don't know if I can do the dance one. The Dave Carr Superstar Award. The Davy Carr. Yeah, I can't remember the dance. It was akin to a Russian dance. I don't know if I'll be able to. Basically, you used to have to try to go down on your haunches and hold your arms.
10,000 points for you, Clarky. I'm going to stop the clock at 7:42. I'm going to write it in my journal here.
My family just came in to check if I was all right.
Well done there, Clarky. So we'll have to see if our next interviewee can beat your score. But you've always been competitive and pretty sharp, Clarky. So well done there. I can't even add up how many points you've got. I'll post it on the in the comment section at the end. But well done, a good bit of fun there. Yeah, and some great memories, Clarky. Tell us. We got about 20 minutes or 15 minutes or so left. So just to kind of wrap things up, your best tour that you ever went on.
Whoa, sheep is one. That's a difficult one, eh? Best tour that I ever went on. I tell you what, I went on a couple of yeah, that's too difficult. My memory is too hazy with some of the things. Probably be 94. We went to Europe for the first time, and as a young person traveling the world for the first time was amazing. We went to a Seven Nations. Well, we started off at a Four Nations in Spain, and we played at Club de Campo. Stayed in these 5-star suites, which were owned by one of the Real Madrid players. Club de Campo is a very plush club. We went from there on a 3-game tour, I think, of Belgium. And then from there, we went to Amsterdam to play in that famous Wagner Stadium, that wooden sort of stadium. The grandstands were really old traditional stadium. And we played the top 4 teams in the world for the first time. And just experiencing Amsterdam as a young guy, Europe for the first time. So that whole European experience, that's probably one that sticks out in my mind. But just so many but that was like a real eye opener for me.
And Clarky, on the pitch, like a couple of moments like that you remember like vividly, great circle entries, or someone you played against that you marked, or that you kind of felt surreal at the time, or moments. Obviously for me, the one I think about often is I think I actually put it on the Instagram group, is that free hit that Ravers just slid under his shoulder to you, free on the top of the circle, and you smashed it into the bottom corner, which surprised all of us. But we've never been so grateful in our lives. What a great finish. I often think about that. Any special moments for you that you recall?
I remember talking about my goal scoring prowess. I remember my debut. Always, like I said, I was a forward. I was keen to score on my debut. Got a real golden opportunity and slid it past the post, just to keep it a beat. I still remember that one. I remember a very strange, memory. We were playing, I think it might have been, it was when Gav was coaching. We were playing at a tournament in Bloemendal, and it was a club festival, like an Easter festival or something, but we were playing as a national team. And I'll never forget, I got the ball sort of on the right-hand side, either right half or right mid or something like that. And I received it, and Tucker van Honnet, who is a flippin' unbelievable player, just so dynamic. And yeah, they'd obviously identified me as a bit of a bunny at that stage. And my first touch wasn't too great. And the ball sort of, bounced off a yard, whatever, half a yard. And Tucker, just as soon as he had seen the ball pass to me, just sprinted straight at me, slid from about 3 meters away, timed his sort of stop, he dug his boots into the ground, just literally slid his stick in, grabbed it, and off he ran. And I think might have scored a goal or got a penalty corner or something like that. I was still frozen in the spot, just the audacity of the move that he had pulled off. I'd never seen anything like it in my life. It was just the speed and I was like, wow, okay, welcome to international hockey. It was like really early in playing some of the top guys. And I mean, there was a club tournament, maybe it was a bit too casual, but that one sticks out. I still remember that moment, that goal against Belgium. That whole tournament was actually an amazing experience. I'll also remember in '98. We had a tournament we had 2 tournaments in KL. The one was the qualifier, which we butchered, I mentioned earlier, where we conceded a lot of late goals. And then we went to the Commonwealth Games, and we beat Australia in the pool game. And we played a pool game, I think it was against India in our last pool match, and we had to get a result off them. I think a draw might have even been good enough. And Dhanraj Pillay entered the D along our left baseline, their right baseline, and I was tracking him. Everything was great, in a great position. had him covered. I knew that he was going to pull the ball back, sort of a little inside pull. And I don't know what happened. He came through, the ball bobbled, it hit my stick, went over my stick. He managed to collect it, and they scored a really soft goal in terms of the position we were at. And yeah, that's still like one of the regrets. I don't have too many in my career, but that I'd done everything correct. I knew it was coming, missed the tackle, conceded the goal, and sort of our chances of meddling kind of went out the window from there. It's just something that I think about from time to time.
Awesome. Okay, Clarky, so we're going to wrap it up in a couple of minutes, but just for all the folks who I'm sure are super stoked to see your face, and who are tuning in. There's about 40 or so folks who are watching us live at the moment. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing now and what the future holds for you, Clarky.
Yeah, Juan, cheapers. Lots happened in the last few weeks, just with the Olympics being pushed out and all that. So middle of 2017 or early 2017, I got a call from Paul Bundy, who's actually an ex-South African guy, went to Jeppe until he was about 15, and then his folks emigrated, and he's been in Canada ever since, just to come and assistant coach with him in the Canadian men's setup. He had just been elevated from the assistant coach to the interim head coach role, and I jumped at it, qualified for the World Cup. Paul got the full-time position, went to the World Cup. Had an incredible year last year where we won a tournament in Malaysia, which was sort of a pre-Olympic qualifier type thing. But it was the first time that Canada had won any sort of form of FIH competition for a number of years. We had a very eventful qualifier against Ireland. I'm sure many of the guys watched it or know it or have seen the highlights. So we were all set to go to this Olympic Games now in July. Had a great program planned out for the rest of the year, and that's all changed now with the Olympics being pushed out a year. Subsequent to that, there's been quite a lot of administrative stuff happening back in Canada. They're quite financially strapped at the moment, and I know Paul was fighting a lot of battles to keep the program going. They were trying to sort of recover money from left, right, and center, and so from what he was trying to set up as the program, and they were sort of pulling back. Him and his partner had a little baby girl just before the qualifier last year in October. So he's actually just resigned about 10 days ago. So he was prepared to fight the fight for Canada for this men's team. We got a great bunch of guys, and he was prepared to do that now until sort of end of August, September, and then walk away. But the extra year and a half, I think, just takes its toll on you when you're having to fight those battles every day, all day, every day. So he stepped away, and so there's a lot of uncertainty and a lot of I don't know what's happening. My contract was meant to be renewed now on the 1st of April. So we've actually got a call later this evening. I'll dial into a Zoom meeting to see what's happening on that front. The CEO will update us. So yeah, there's a lot of chatted to a few people in this lockdown period. A lot of businesses are taking strain, and a lot of people who own businesses and run businesses are taking strain. I might end up being one of those casualties from a different perspective from this whole coronavirus things. What could potentially be my fifth Olympics not materialize. We just got to wait to see what happens. But that's what I'm doing on that front. I run the hockey at Sachs High School here. We've had an incredible, it's my 4th year now. Great year last year. It's going really well. Great bunch of people I'm surrounded by. It's a lekker environment. I do a bit of other consultancies here and there, private coaching, stay involved. I loved playing again last season. For Western Province Cricket Club 2s with a whole bunch of guys that I coached back in the day, the likes of Cronge and Donkey. Seth plays in that team. Jung's in the Masters team now that I got selected for this year with Western Province. So it's
your name was on the sheet there, Clarky. You sneaky
thingy. Playing with all the youngsters again. So it's quite lucky, everyone.
But to you, you're certainly not a cult. I mean, you're 100 years old. You can't be in
Exactly.
the 35s, eh?
Yeah, so Juan, I just turned 49. So yeah, but I don't know. I ran around, tore a couple of hamleys last year, but obviously when I was on the park, I did enough stuff to impress the selectors.
Awesome. Well, we look forward to seeing you on the pitch again, Clarky, at the end of the year. So
God, that'd be
it'd be
cool.
great to play against you and have a couple of cold beers.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just wanted to say a huge thank you for today. I know it's technologically quite challenging to get these things going, but thank you for being the first person to put their hand up to have a little chat and a catch up. And so great to see you and to hear your stories, and for all the friends out there to tune in as well and catch up with you. So thank you very much, Clarky.
Thanks, Juan. Really appreciate it. Thanks for instigating this whole process and for taking me on an awesome trip down memory lane. That was lekker, and I look forward to catching up with all the guys for a beer very soon. Eh?
Lovely. Cheers, Clarky.
Thanks, Juan.
See you soon, lads. Okay, so this Instagram video is going to be saved to the page, hopefully, and I'll try and Twashi Mives, all you guys for tuning in. It's been amazing, and I'll let you know who's up next soon. All right, cheers, guys.